Hi there, my name is Amanda Poole-Walsh, and I am the founder of Astrology Hub.
And I'm astrologer Stormie Grace.
And we're here together for your weekly forecast for the week beginning on October 7th, 2019. Before we dive in, I just wanted to invite you, if you have something pressing on your heart, a question that is really big for you, that you would like some insight on using astrology, you can submit your question for our new segment on this podcast. After the forecast every week, we're taking a question from an audience member and we're using that person's astrology chart to answer the question and give them the guidance that they're looking for. So if you have something you want to ask us, please go on over to astrologyhub.com/ask and submit your question. We're picking as many as we can, but we would love to be able to meet you and also just help you navigate the real things that are happening in your life, because that's where astrology really comes to life. When you get to see how it can be applied to your life to help you navigate through the different things that are coming up for you. So again, go to astrologyhub.com/ask. We would love the opportunity to meet you. All right. Now, Stormie, let's talk about this week. What is our theme?
I feel like all throughout fall, we just have one theme, and it is relationships. But this week, it's also about having depth and passion and intensity and intimacy with our relationships. And that's all of our relationships, with others and with ourselves. Really what we're going for this week is moving away from any superficial interactions and moving towards relationships that have some depth and that have enough passion in them to be willing to transform. And that doesn't make it easy. I want to be very clear that does not make it easy. Venus gets a little bit beat up this week, so we can see the challenges, but the work is worth it.
Well, and the thing is, Stormie, with relationships, don't you think it pretty much always comes back to how are you showing up? Like if you want passion in your relationship, like, do you have passion in your life? Are you a passionate person? If you want intimacy, are you allowing yourself to be vulnerable? Are you allowing yourself to be seen? All these things, because intimacy, I love when people say into me see instead of intimacy, into me see. So it's, are you allowing yourself to be seen? And that can be so hard. So yes, I see what you're saying. Like when you first said the theme, I was like, ooh, it's going to be, so much fun. It's like romantic and sexy. And then you're like, yeah, but it's not easy. It's like, yeah, that's true. If it was that easy, we would just be doing it all the time.
Right. We'd just be out there being, awake and deep and passionate, and we don't need astrology because we're good.
Because we're good.
Right. As we roll into the beginning of the week on Monday, we aren't too far from this new moon that we just had in Libra. So bringing this nice clean slate to relationships and maybe even some new relationships into your life. And one of the things I like to, point out with new relationships is that a new relationship can be an old relationship that died off and you've realized something's got to change so it can live better. Now, we've also got the Mars and Sun and Venus energy here in Libra as we're starting out the week. So it's really a dynamic place to be vital in your relationships, and not just to be doing something, but to be there, have the sense of beauty, just a lot of nice, enjoy your relationships, try and enjoy yourself, right? And get your fingers like all pruny in the enjoyment and pleasure of the relationships that are in your life. Because on Tuesday, they get a little bit more deep. We've got Venus now moving into the energy of Scorpio. And first and foremost, Venus is not necessarily comfortable here because she wants to be nice. She wants to be polite and very diplomatic. And Scorpio's like, no, sometimes, Venus, you got to just say it with your chest out, right? Like, we need to talk about what's really going on here. So Scorpio is only interested in root level examinations of things that are going on with us, with humans, fear, sex, power, passion, intimacy. So with Venus here, we're going to not just be enjoying these relationships, we're going to actually deeply examine them, right? We're going to bring to light anything that is creating darkness within our relationships. And we ask questions that bring our relationships into a more vital and passionate reality. That's what Venus is going to do here.
Ask questions that bring our relationship into a more dynamic and passionate quality. Is that what you just said?
Passionate reality.
Reality. I wonder what kind of questions we can ask.
Yeah. Well, I think some great questions to start bringing to mind are any place that you are struggling, right? Like go to where the challenge is at and ask questions about that. Are you having power struggles in your relationships around money? At this time, those concerns are going to be a little bit more apparent because instead of bringing a unity, they're bringing a disunity. Are those money issues putting pressure on this relationship? Are there other behaviors in your relationships that need to come into the open? For people out there who this is your sphere, are you struggling with issues of sex, right? This is we're in Scorpio season here. We're going to talk about that, right? So anything that you can honestly address and discuss can be healed at this time. So my question is, where do you need to ask questions and where do you need to ask for help, even if it's scary?
Really interesting. I mean, around the sex thing, I mean, this isn't like completely related, but kind of, my daughter is turning 11. And so, that she's at that point where we're thinking, I don't call it a period. I call it a moon because it's aligned with the phases of the moon. So anyways, she is, coming to the age where she could start her moon at some point. And so one of the things she has tons of Scorpio. She has Venus in Scorpio. And so she wants to go into the depth, but there's also that fear, so I've said, let's just have a code word. Let's have a code word for that moment so that you can tell me without having to tell me, and we can bring some lightness to it. So maybe for you, if this is a really sensitive area of life, it's could you have a code word? Is there a way you can bring some lightness to it so it doesn't feel so heavy? Because I think sometimes that's the thing is these things that we don't address, they sort of get bigger and bigger and they feel heavier and heavier. And it's is there a way to bring some lightness in it? Because that might make it easier for you to approach.
I agree. I think those are huge things, but just knowing that if you can bring it out for conversation or discussion, there can be a whole new healed perspective around it, right? It can move forward. I know that this has been in the last couple of years where my body has changed. I'm not this vibrant, rolling with estrogen and sex female on this planet anymore. I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit different. I've started perimenopause, and I had asked some questions about that, and it was scary.
I have questions about that. I'm going to practice what we're talking. Can I have a code word? No. So, how do you know? How do you know that you're going through perimenopause? What are the signs?
Yeah, well, for me, it was quite unexpected. I actually had a surgery done, and within that surgery, I was having my fallopian tubes removed. And within that surgery, the idea was leave the ovaries so that you can kind of keep the hormones going, all the good stuff, right? And immediately after that surgery, I came out, and what it was like for me, I know it's not the same for everybody, but what it was like for me is I was immediately super suicidal, and I couldn't believe it and I couldn't understand it. And I had one part of my brain going, oh my God, and this other piece going, something's wrong. Something is not right. And I'm so grateful for that little spiritual voice, right? And so I was able to get together with my GYN, who is a brilliant practitioner and also practices Western, but also natural medicine as well. And we had to get together, and I told him what was happening and what was going on. And we did blood tests and spit test. I think the spit test is so incredibly important if you're going to check your hormones, ladies. And so we got to come together and figure out that, from that surgery, for whatever reason, my body stopped making enough progesterone, right? And my hormones came way out of balance and all of that good stuff. And I started a different cycle and a different phase of my life being right here. And it was scary because I'm going to tell you very truthfully, I've been able to work through this since then, but I had this idea that if I ever entered into any form of menopause, I would be even closer to death, right? And what a scary thought to be laden with and try and go out in the world and be vital, right?
Yeah, you know what though? I think you're uncovering. I mean, I'm sure many people have that thought because there's something about that phase of life that's associated with vitality, with fertility, with abundance, with passion, all those things. And there is that fear that oh my gosh, if that's gone, then all those things go too. I know that we have many, many, many models of women who completely defy that idea, but there's some ideas I've found that are so deeply entrenched in our collective consciousness that we normally don't even know they're there until we're confronted with it. Like you just brought up, what happened for you. And then B, extracting them can be really hard because they're like these faint whispers in our consciousness. We're not even really aware of them. They're just humming in the background. And we don't even know where they came from. It's where did that come from? Like, did your mom teach you that? Like, once you hit menopause, you're about to die. Like,
Yeah, right. Which is so funny because getting to go through the discovery of it, nobody ever told me that. And that is not what I saw from the women in my reality, in my world. Many of them are older, been through menopause, wherever it happened for them, fully. And they are some of the most vital creatures on this planet. But walking into it for myself, this is where, we have these subconscious, unconscious fears. And until you're standing in front of it, you don't know that you've been living superficially, and you have to look with a little bit more depth to uncover that fear, right? It just is what it is. Because think about it. When you're out there in the world and you've got all the estrogen and all the youth in the world, you're not thinking about this. And when your hormones change, you get a real check-in on your perspective. And today, I don't feel that way at all, but I can tell you that I spent months feeling just broken. I just felt broken.
oh, baby. I'm so happy to hear that you're on the other side of it. And I am applauding you and very grateful to you for sharing it, because again, these are these things that we don't even know we're carrying. And so having someone else share their experience about how it showed up for them, for me, the biggest one where this happened was through the divorce. I realized that I held this collective conscious idea that a divorced woman with 2 children was basically used goods, and I was going to die alone with all the cats in the apartment with the curlers in the hair and the robe. I don't know where that visual comes from, but I've heard so many women have it. I've never had a cat in my life, so why all of a sudden would I have 10 of them in an apartment? I don't wear curlers, none of it. But there's some visual that we carry. And I actually feel like these are like implants that are in our consciousness, and we live from them, not even knowing they're there, and they're driving our behavior. That implant probably kept me married long beyond the expiration date of my marriage, because I was afraid, this would be my reality and then, to be on the other side of it. Of course, I worked through it. Same with you, like months of just being devastated and this fear being so big in that, and be on the other side of it. It's laughable, but I don't want to belittle any of you who may be actually going through it. I hope that helps you see that it's there, because look around. Are you kidding me? They're the sexiest, most amazing women having 3rd and 4th and 5th marriages, or, whatever, or never getting married again and being perfectly happy. So all these ideas that we have they're just not real.
Yeah, that's why I think that this is one of my favorite seasons that we get when we move into autumn, because we really just start to dig through things we don't know that are there. But the really important part here is that you do not do it alone. Your information, your healing, your discussion comes from inviting in the right people to meet you there, right? That's so critical. But this is what we do in this season, folks. We're seeing the stuff.
I love it. Well, I'm glad we have each other. We have all of you, and you have us. And, those of you in the inner circle, you could be sharing these kinds of things in the inner circle. I know it's vulnerable. I know it's like scary to put yourself out there that way. But every time I have in my life, I've been amazed at the way people respond. It's like, oh, finally, like we're all acknowledging that we're human. We're all acknowledging that we have these things in common, and there's such a freedom in just being able to be like, you know what, I struggle with this. Like, and I just am sharing just to see if any of you out there might feel the same way, and we can support each other,
Yes. I got to tell you this before we do Wednesday. And when I went and I was talking to this group of women, and I told them, there was this one woman in particular, right? And I told them, I said, I just feel broken. And the look on her face and just the way she put her hands on her heart, I knew that she had been there. And she's like, I completely understand. And it was, I don't know this woman. I didn't know her. Right? Like, this was just the group of women that I was with and I was talking to. And when she said it, I realized that in that moment, everything she had experienced about feeling broken, she now saw that it was useful and valuable, because she was about to save my life with it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right? Like, that's what we're doing here. That is what we're doing.
That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here. And again, this is where the astrology is magical. It's all it's doing is right now in this time period, shining the light and giving us permission and supporting us with the energy to do this level of excavation in our consciousness. Why? So we can become more awake and more aware and more loving and more compassionate and more of who we actually really are, So
That's all just on Tuesday. My goodness.
that's just Tuesday. Oh my God. Let's just take a nap for the rest of the week.
Right. Well, it's kind of nice because when we do get to Wednesday, the moon is moved into Pisces. So there's a lot of compassion. There's a lot of creativity, and it's right here on the surface, right? So anything that's been hidden, that's come up, anything you've been working through emotionally, you can really handle it. And what I love about this as well is this is that energy where it's like, yeah, whatever's come up for you, have a meal with somebody. Sit down and engage them and just like love on each other. I mean, you don't really have to love on each other unless you do that. That's fine. But love on each other. You know what I'm saying? And then as we roll into Thursday, we've got that Pisces moon in a sextile to Saturn, who's over in Capricorn. So it really does turn the volume on the emotionalism down for a few hours. And you can just have these acts of love that are practical. You can explore these topics of loyalty, commitment, all of these things that are very, very, they're going to make you feel more solid with everything that you're discovering and with the people that are around you. So you really can have a nice nap and a meal and just enjoy other people. Or write. Pisces energy is highly creative. Sometimes the best forecast, podcasts, anything I've done have just come from the place of my own experience and realization, and I've put it on paper or put it out there to you guys. So if you've got something to share, love on us, share it with us.
What you're talking about is like this level of softness, this level of softness in the way that we approach ourselves and in the way that we approach each other. So watch for places where you sort of have your defenses up, like, for example, if your partner, your husband, your girlfriend, whatever, is late for your dinner, instead of like why are you late? That's sort of like putting that arrow out, more just like, I'm really looking forward to dinner with you. And I assume that there's a really good reason why you're not here on time. Like, could you share it with me? Just because I was so excited to see you at 6, or like, there's just other ways we can do things where it's just less. And all those like cutting things we're doing to protect ourselves, we're doing to defend ourselves. And it's as if we're walking through the world with adversaries versus, other humans that we can, and then, with that said, it's smart to know who is in your circle, and who you can be vulnerable with and who is safe to be vulnerable with. But, if you've already deemed someone like, worthy of being a person you share your life with, you would think that hopefully that's a person that is your partner and not an adversary. And so just checking all the places where you're doing that, treating that person as an adversary.
I agree, especially in this deep season. If you cannot in your partnership show up as an individual and say, these are needs that I have to be met as well, or lovingly put corrections out there to any of your relationships and not still be loved on, this is the season to look at that. Right? This is the season. So as we roll into the weekend, I love that there's a little bit of energy of surprise on the table. First of all, we've got on Friday, the moon's still in Pisces, but it's actually going to square Jupiter before it runs into the energy of Aries. And I do want to bring this to your attention, you guys, because this could actually bring something around legal issues up, especially if there's a legal situation happening in a personal relationship. This could be on the surface where you could get news or something is moving along with that in some way, shape, or form. So just kind of be mindful of that. Any place that you see the law, I want to tell you, because sometimes we've got court cases going on, so, whatever it is, this could be a day of information, but whatever it does bring to the surface, you've got this moon trudging into the energy of Aries later in the day. So you're pretty bold, you're pretty confident, you're ready to initiate whatever you've got to do and kind of start fresh. And I love that energy because it's not afraid, right? It's not afraid to win. It's not afraid to lose. It just needs to go in a pretty unafraid way. So I think that's really nice. But then on Saturday, Venus is going to oppose Uranus. And this can bring some excitement into your relationships. It can bring something unpredictable into your relationship. Now, where that can be not exciting is, if you have found out over this last couple weeks, something is not happening, you can't get back on board with this relationship, if you can't seem to get your finances in order, whatever it is, if you're finding that the break can't be mended, this could certainly be a day where unexpectedly you break up, or unexpectedly the idea is let's try a separation or something like that. But it can also just bring a whole new level of interaction, or maybe you decide to do something different. It's a phenomenal day for having a new relationship walk into your world, but I would tell you try and keep it on the friendship level if you can. whatever is going to happen here, it just signals a change to your love life, to your finances, and to your relationships. And sometimes we need those, right? Sometimes we need to be surprised by our friends, by our partners, by people we interact with who show up lovingly to us instead of putting us down, like Amanda was talking about. So whatever it is, welcome the surprise.
All right.
Yeah. So we're going to end this week on Sunday with the Aries full moon. So the full moon gives us our signal that we're going to bring something to an end, we're going to acknowledge something, or we're going to make an adjustment. Now, because the moon is still going to have a pull on our emotions, and Aries is the sign of self, it gives me that signal for all of us. It is the perfect time to refresh you, right? Like this is an emotional fresh start for you. If you've had issues and tensions this week or this last couple months in relationships, they can be transformed from here on out because you can be clear on what you need. You can be clearer on blocks that you've placed. You can be clearer on being willing to be your own blessing in your life and not waiting for any other source to do that as well. So this full moon is a chance to make a fresh start for sure.
So Stormie, when the full moon energy comes, are you thinking of it as like illuminating, because of the brightness, illuminating obstacles or illuminating blocks? How do you just in general, how do you think of the full moon? And then for this one, how do you layer on the Aries component of it?
Yeah, for sure. Whenever I think about the full moon, we do have the most light, right? Like we've got, boom, here it is. So in it, this is actually the time where, while we know it's a time to wind things down and to end them or make the adjustments that we need to, I look at it as a fresh start as well, because as soon as something ends or changes or is adjusted or acknowledged, you have the space right there for a fresh start because it gets to be something else, right? But you've got to be able to see it. You've got to have a big light shown on it, first of all. So any full moon is going to do that. But then I look at, okay, what sign is this in to tell us, how are we going to get this moon done? And with Aries, we want to win. We want to go forward. It's about myself. This is about my identity. We've got beautiful connections with Jupiter and the sun at this move. So it's very positive for expanding you out, for taking your ideals to a higher place, and especially in relationships, because Libra is the opposite energy of Aries. So we are always going to look at what's happening across the street as well. Because at the full moon, the actual aspect that is happening is the sun and the moon are opposite from each other. So your polarities are lit up, my needs versus my wants, all of these things. And you get to answer those questions in there. But in the energy of Aries, the focus is going to be on you. Where are you showing up? How are you showing up? Have you blocked your blessings? Are you being a blessing? All of those things. And through your acknowledgement and your adjustment, you'll get to see where you can do that better, or maybe where you don't want to do it at all anymore.
Wonderful. All right. So I'm gonna summarize for us. Yeah. We ready for that? Okay. So this week we're still in that, Libra season of relationships. So relationships are definitely in the spotlight. And this week there's an element of bringing the depth and the passion, excavating hidden layers, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable where you need to. Second, there's an invitation this week to really engage with people. I love how you say, like, be human, go to dinner. Like, do we do that anymore? I know we do, but like, go to dinner without your phone, like really be there, be human with someone and love up on each other. I love that. I love to think about all the Astrology Hub podcast listeners out there, like choosing who they're going to like love up on this week and making a dinner date. It makes me happy. Okay. For the weekend, there's going to be some surprises potentially. If there's been some breaks in relationships or some tension, maybe they can't be mended and you're going to realize that and it's going to be the end of something, but always remembering that there's going to be this new opening for you. There could be changes in your love life, your finances, your relationship, and we have a full moon. So this is really a perfect time for you to refresh you and focus on you and, what it is that you are wanting and needing and bringing into the world. And especially as it relates to relationships. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and don't go anywhere because next we have the Ask segment. We have an audience member who we are going to be helping through some sort of challenge in their life. So please stay tuned. And if you would like your question considered for this next segment of the show, you can go to astrologyhub.com/ask and submit your question. And hopefully we'll get to meet you and answer your question here very, very soon. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stick around. Okay, everybody, welcome to our Q&A segment. We are here with Suniva Gress. She's calling in from Battleground, Washington. Suniva, it's so great to have you here with us. You've been a part of the Inner Circle for about 2 to 3 months, right?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And can you tell the audience what the burning question on your heart is here today?
Yeah, so my question is, I am in the process of going through my second Saturn return, and my life has just been so challenging and so crazy. And I'm just wondering, is there any relief in sight for me?
Yeah, we get tired. Us humans get tired. Is there relief available? And that's always such a hard question to answer, honestly, because there is relief available, right? But how willing are we to step into it is something that becomes challenging. So one of the things that I would ask you about, or I would bring your attention to coming up on this second Saturn return, is a couple ideas. Is that, first of all, congrats on making it through the first one, because that's when you become an official adult, right? So you've been an adult for just a little bit now, but there's a lot of learning that goes into that first Saturn return. It is a busy, sometimes just really challenging time. And so the relief portion of it, and the good news is that in the second Saturn return, you have learned those things. So you get to come into this second part of your life leveled up, right? Like you are prepared. You have a different way to handle things. And with you, very specifically, it is going to be the question as we approach January and we come into the conjunction, but not the exact of your Saturn return. The question is going to be, are you done being the woman that you were? Are you ready for a new identity? Are you completely ready to be out in the world differently than you've ever been? And a piece of that looks like, are you ready for a completely different career?
Oh.
Yeah. So this is going to be a real big switch for you, which is, I think, somewhere in your mind maybe been swirling around a little bit anyways. I would wonder how many times you've thought, okay, is this the right work? Is this really still rewarding at this time? And really, I have to tell you, in my experience of the Saturn return, a year and a half to a year before the Saturn return, we start getting real uncomfortable. Life starts feeling real hard, right? Like I don't fit these people around me. I don't have some of these same ideas. How come the things I've been doing are not working out? Where the heck did that crazy person come from, right? It is just this weird transitional energy. And so I'm certain you have been completely aware of it. But as I said, when we move forward, there is relief because you've already learned the things, but you will also be moving just into a new phase. You've got new people that look like they'll be coming into your world, and a whole new career. They come with it. I'm not sure what you do for work at this particular present time, but your work, which you were not going to find that rewarding set of work until later in life. And where I make that discernment, just for our listeners as well, is when I look at the chart and I see that midheaven line tipped more towards the eastern sector, it tells me the person does not find the thing, the work, the pure gratitude of it until later in life. And so you're coming in a little bit later in life, and there's lots of details. I'm not sure in what way technology is exactly involved in this, but it looks like there's a tech piece coming for you. And I don't know if at this point you're prepared for that yet. What do you do?
So by trade, I'm an esthetician. And so I'm in the skincare business, spa business. And yeah, I have felt like that there's something else in me that wants to come out, whether it was in a healing modality or what other kind of place that would be. But I just haven't, it's like there's something in me that just wants to be birthed, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's okay, because that's, that is exactly what this feels like. And you too have this just separating conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, and the woman before had this as well. So it's like at this point where you're not feeling that very well-defined career path, you are ultimately super uncomfortable with that for sure. So what I can tell you in terms of moving forward and what is it, you could pick up pretty much anything that has to do with healing or counseling in any way, shape, or form. You could pick that up and probably do very, very well with that. Looking at your natal chart, it's kind of like, I mean this in the best way possible, but you are not afraid to go to hell and back with people, right? Like you're like, no, let me tell you what, this is what happened in this relationship, right? Like I feel like you just have a solid grasp of being able to walk with people through that. So if you did, or you started to move into a place where, maybe what you're doing is you are doing counseling or coaching or some variety of that with younger people. You are walking them through a transition of relationships in some way, shape, or form. I'm not exactly fully clear on what that looks like, but we have had this shift in our society, Sunniva, that maybe you didn't even know you were getting ready for. We've got people who are trying to figure out what they are. Maybe what you are moving into is helping them figure out how to move as they're doing that. It's a very sexual kind of energy, but you have the power to go there with them.
Sunniva, my guess is as an esthetician, you've probably been practicing this on some level. I know that our hairdressers are, the people that we go to for our beauty treatments, they get to hear a lot of things from a lot of people. So in some ways, you maybe have been preparing for this, although not realizing that that's what you were doing. So how is it all resonating for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably my whole life. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a counselor or a nurse. My whole life, I've always been in that arena. And I guess what I've been noticing myself too is because my second Saturn return is in Capricorn. My rising sign is Capricorn. And I feel like I've become so Capricornish. Like I'm just not that as feeling like I was more playful as a Sag before, but now I just feel more structured. I just feel like I'm more, setting boundaries, doing this, doing that, just like I have all this Capricorn energy. So that's how I kind of feel like I'm Inanna that went into the underground, and I'm still there in this underground, and I'm ready to come out from underneath, the underworld.
Yes. Let me ask you this. If we say this out loud for me and then answer it. If I wasn't afraid, I would. What would you do for work? If you weren't afraid, if I wasn't afraid, I would.
If I wasn't afraid, I would. I don't know that I could answer that. I mean,
maybe not yet. I'll give that to you as homework.
That's okay.
Trust those instincts. Man, that Jupiter Saturn conjunction can make you so traditional that you stop trusting your own instincts on what you know how to do.
My little dog. Yeah.
See, it's very sad. Somebody knows that, right? So that's something that I would give you to consider and continue to ask yourself. You may not know yet. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the return as well, right? Is that then your eyes are peeled and you go, oh, wait a minute, because think about it. From the time that you were 18 and the world told you you were an adult, which was a crock, to when you were 30 and you were an adult, you went, oh my God, I'm so sorry about 17 and 18, So it will be the same kind of deal. Your eyes will be peeled as you arrive at this return.
Stormie, does Sunniva need like additional training for this next phase of life? Like would it help her to get more educated in that path that she's going to be going on?
So it will. And right now is a time where you could consider it, right? Whatever you wanted to do in terms of counseling or anything like that, you could, but you still just have your own held up opposition to it quite yet. So I think in the path of getting more additional training or information, any of those things that are going to come your way, it is going to come through a grouping of people. And I believe these people to be younger than you, right? But not yet. I don't think that you see any movement on allowing these people to kind of come into your sphere until we get closer to the end of the year. So the next few months, October, November, December, is you being like, okay, right? Here's this other thought that I'm kind of having about anything being able to progress forward. Maybe it is time as well to begin your grief, right? Like it is so beautiful to move on, but you are moving into a world that you don't know. And you, as good, bad, or indifferent, you've been who you are, and you're not going to do that anymore. And in a way, that's kind of scary. And it is scary to sit across from a person who's like, you're going to change your whole life. So maybe it's time to stand in the middle of your living room and say, all right, whatever's up there, out there, in here, I'm willing. And allow yourself to start to shed a little bit. This is a great time for that, because you have your very own set of little holdbacks right here where I know you want better, but you're still kind of stuck with yourself, it looks like.
Well, I have been listening to Amanda, and we were in their talk about just being the I don't know. And so I have just been allowing myself this last couple of weeks just to be in the I don't know. And if somebody asks me a question and I've just been, I don't know. I just don't know right now. And it has felt really comforting to me just to say, I don't know. And because I really don't, but I'm trying to just allow the universe to, the universe knows better for myself than I know for myself right now. And I've just been trying to go with the flow and just being in the unknown.
Being in the I don't know is already starting the grieving process, because you're already acknowledging that what you thought is no longer. So to me, that's like an important first step of like, God, what I thought was going to happen, who I thought I was, whatever it is, I actually don't know. So there's a step in that direction and it also loosens up the energy, right? It allows space for something new, for new possibilities that you never considered to show themselves. Stormie, I feel like you wanted to say something there.
No, I'm so on board with that, because it's interesting to read when I read a chart, and it's really the time for the detaching or the grieving, because it's not entirely exciting, right? It's not like, oh, yay, billions of dollars are coming my way. It's kind of about that. But I do think that what you've started, you're in the right place. And I just want to share this with you too. I think it is absolutely impossible for you to screw up your lifetime. So you're not going to miss your moment. You just won't. Okay.
The other question I have is, so they say, as far as I'm understanding, my second Saturn return is supposed to hit like February 10th, 2020. Does that mean that I'm going to be going through all of this until after that date, or?
This is the question. This is as an astrologer, you must get this. How long is this going to last? When is this going to end? But I love that you asked that. I remember going to astrologers in Dark Nights of the Soul being like, oh my God, how much longer? Go ahead, Stormie.
So the answer is officially, really, the Saturn return energy in terms of making actual contact is going to begin for you in January, because we get this more into a conjunct position. Then it happens for you in February, right? But this is the thing you have to consider is first of all, you're not going to just be going through this horrible time for like ever. Career and your identity are going to be some huge pieces of mental real estate for you for quite some time, but it will end again. So you can expect to spend 2020 working on this, getting out of your way, getting this new identity. And it doesn't stay as heavy. It really doesn't. But what I want you to be mindful of is that it starts in January, officially happens, Saturn moves forward a little bit, but where your placement is at, Saturn's also going to take a retrograde and come back over that bad boy. So again, your identity will be on your front porch, and then he's got to go back. So again, he will be on your front porch. And so some of this too, in terms of your actual business, whatever you end up doing, you could be creating imaging in this time. You could really be creating what this is going to look like, because maybe you don't start the business until 2021, but you're creating the imaging. You're creating something that brands you differently during this time. What you're not doing is just spending an entire year suffering. Okay, that's not the deal. The universe does actually not hate us.
And so is there any other way of diving in my chart and seeing what that looks like? Or is you just know that, those are other options that are available for you? And, is there any way of looking at my chart and feeling, something more direct?
So I guess I'd have to think about in the directness. There is, I understand what you're asking me, I think, but I'm trying to think of, so much of this is going to come back down to you expanding out to the groups, to working with these younger people. That's what this is ultimately going to end in.
I know I keep coming to the things we have in common, but you are a member of the inner circle. There are many younger people in that group. Maybe there's some sort of inspiration or some sort of idea that's going to come to you through your engagement in our community. And maybe that's around astrology. Maybe it's around helping younger people. Maybe that's around, I don't know, but there is this opportunity you have that you're in right now that does connect you with groups of younger people. So potentially it's there.
And it's so interesting. I'm sorry I don't have a deeper answer at this particular moment. Once I get to March in your chart at this particular point, your chart shuts off. So typically what that means for me in my practice is we don't need to know anything else yet. We have to work right here. So I try and trust my judgment on that. I can tell you things that I see, but when I get ready to tell you, Sunniva, they feel like that, don't say that. That is not what's right. So I'm hesitant to do that. So I feel like the big pieces, though, that are in this next important span have to do with kind of maybe even just knowing where it's supposed to end up. The process is in question, and that your identity, like what I would just ask you, if you were not afraid, what would you go do? Who would you be? What would you create right there? And it's this place where you get to detach from what you thought it was supposed to be, who you thought you were supposed to be, and definitely this idea of this should look different. By now I should be. None of that fits anymore. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense that there's just something out there it just makes sense that this whole time, even though I love my clients, I love what I do, I love the hands-on healing, there's just still that, bubbling up inside of me that there's something else that I'm still meant to do. And I haven't, I come across little ideas, but part of my Saturn return that I believe was that I've had that's been so crazy and chaotic isn't really what I do for a living. I feel like it's just been setting boundaries with people. And that's why I believe I've had all this Capricorn energy, like, boundary here. So I wasn't even thinking about it being my career, which that's always been bubbling up in me. But my second Saturn return just has felt more like, setting boundaries, being structured, being, on task. And so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I think that any of that sounds inaccurate. And as you continue to travel in this next handful of months, I would be interested to see where you see this really showing up in the creation of career, around that career. Now, can I ask you this too, just side note, looking in your chart, but relationship wise, what is that?
I'm married. Been married for 39 years.
Okay, cool. Because your Venus up here in Scorpio, I don't know what that particular situation looks like for you, but I wonder too if you don't draw from that in some way, shape, or form, or if you don't do something as a co-situation, because either way, whether or not you were married or not, there's enough information that makes me feel like there's a male energy that's present, and it's in a partnership way in how you're informing people going forward. So you'll have to let me know. What sign is your husband?
He's a Leo.
Oh, well, you'll have a lot to learn from him, though, don't you? Yeah, with that North Node up there in Leo, your chart is literally like, go talk about sex. We know about sex. Let's talk about that. Let's teach astrology. Let's talk about trauma and drama. And you're like, you will soon.
Awesome. Sunniva, thank you so much for being here with us today. I hope that you found this helpful. It's going to be really interesting to see how this continues for you. And, you're already in such a great place with this surrender question of I don't know. And there's no real coincidences, really. Like there's no accidents, right? Like there's a reason why you're where you're at, learning the things you're learning, getting exposed to the soul work practices like I don't know, and incorporating them into your life at this particular moment. So it's just been really nice to connect with you and get to know you a little bit better. And please continue to stay in touch and let us know how it worked out.
I will. And thank you so much for choosing me. And thank you for all your guidance. I really appreciate it.
All right. So everybody out there, if you have a question that is on your heart and you would like Stormie to look at your chart and give you some guidance, you can go to astrologyhub.com/ask, submit your question and your birth information, and we will consider you for this segment on the show. Again, that's astrologyhub.com/ask. Thank you, everybody, for being here today, for being a part of our community, and for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode. Would it be helpful to be alerted via Facebook Messenger when a new podcast episode goes live? If so, go to astrologyhub.com/alerts and sign up for Facebook notifications, and we'll make sure you don't miss a beat. That's astrologyhub.com/alerts.
Hi, this is Chris Kaplan, the producer of the Astrology Hub podcast. This episode is over, but check the show notes for links to products and services you've heard about during this episode. And if you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and rate using the subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts.